Hi, everyone. Welcome to another Steph Talks webinar. We are so excited that you are joining us today. We have three great speakers today, super knowledgeable, as we're going to take a deeper dive into digital transformation. We are recording this session, so we will be sending out the recording as well as some main takeaways from this webinar to you later today. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in your chat box on your computer, and we will get to them at the end of the webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Dave. He's having a little bit of technical issues today with his webcam, so you can't see him right now on the screen, but he's there. So I'm going to hand it off to him, and we'll start with introductions, and we'll go ahead and get started with the webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Amy. I appreciate that. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dave Smith with Stefanini, and I'm joined here today with by two distinguished guests, Craig Brown of Xceleon, who is a scaled Agile coach and trainer. Craig is helping companies actually guide through their journey for the Agile scaled Agile approach, and basically partners with us and our Agile squads. Craig, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, thank you guys so much for joining. And Dave, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm going to be honest, guys, I'm super excited about the opportunity to speak to you today about this subject. I have a lot of passion in regards to it. I've been working in this space for 27 years in the IT field, starting in the U.S. Army. Currently today, I am a certified SAFe professional consultant to where I'm able to train and help companies to roll out the agile processes within an organization. I am a certified SAP Focus Build Tool coach as well, doing some of the same activities in the SAP ERP world. I participated in 5 full digital transformation projects where we implemented the digital transformation functionalities in our organization. And as I mentioned, I have a strong passion for the subject matter. And I've done business both with both commercial and government entities.
We're also joined by Nikhil Desai, our Solution Center Director. Nikhil, please introduce yourself as well.
Hey, thank you, Dave. Good morning, everyone. And thanks for having me, Dave, on this webinar and giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts, experiences on this topic, which is so near and close to my heart. To introduce myself, my name is Nikhil Desai. I'm the Pre-Sales Director at Solution Center. I'm responsible for all of application digital pre-sales at Stefanini North America. In my current role, I engage with my customers and help them structure their digital transformation journeys, leveraging Agile principles, methods. I have quite an experience, and quite an interesting background that helps me in my current role. I'm a certified Lean facilitator, Scrum Master, have experience helping customers on the Lean Agile Transformation Initiative. I've also helped customers implement Lean Agile philosophy to multiple areas within IT beyond the traditional app development space. It's my real pleasure to be here on this panel and have a conversation with you folks. Share my perspective on how we at Stefanini help bring a lot of certainty into our squad-driven Agile execution methodology to mitigate a lot of risks, right? Financial risks, execution risks, which I'm sure several of us on this call would be very interested to listen to. So again, thank you for having me here, Dave.
Thank you both for making time. And just to kind of get things kicked off, we're going to talk today about how CFOs can actually accelerate their digital transformation using a scaled Agile approach. And as we get into that, let's talk a little bit about some of the the challenges that CFOs face. Because let's face it, digital transformations are no longer an IT agenda, if you will, right? They actually impact the direct performance of the business. But as CFOs ponder funding these digital transformation initiatives, they're faced with many challenges. One of them being that digital transformation is causing a disconnect in necessary available skills that they have at their disposal, right? And we know that without the know-how, successful transformations are impossible, right? So they're limited in congruency that prevent output as well. And some of these big projects, these digital transformations initiatives, have very high turnover that really impacts, puts a strain on training and new hire costs, right? So that's just one area. The other area that we're seeing is that high technology costs is really hindering profitability, right? So CFOs, they want to be able to reduce the cost of ownership, right? And they're having to do more with less. The other thing is that they're trying to obtain a return on investment, and that's becoming more and more difficult with these large digital transformations. The other area that we're noticing is that there's these exorbitant innovation costs, right? They're stifling business alignment. Now we're seeing that misalignment of the business and IT leads to inefficiencies and business mediocrity, right? So a lot of times, these CFOs, as they're looking at these transformations, they're unable to obtain additional market share. That's one of the areas that they're struggling with. And then obviously they're not getting the functionality that they need in order to really help the business move forward. So those are just some of the areas that that we're noticing in terms of the challenges that CFOs are facing. The last part probably is going to be time to market, and then the cost of innovations I mentioned earlier. And so the question I would have is really for you first, Craig. What are some of the processes that that these CFOs can use to help mitigate these challenges in these areas?
Sure. Thanks for the question, Dave. So there are several processes that can be leveraged to help those CFOs in the organization to mitigate those challenges. All of those processes can be kind of captured under the umbrella of the Scale Agile framework, quite frankly. You have processes that really are focused in on various levels of the organization, from your portfolio level of the organization when you talk about exactly what's the big thing to do in the organization, to the program level where you're rolling out initiatives such as different financial configurations that may be a part of S/4HANA, for example, and certainly at the team level as well. If you have this framework deployed and you're using this framework, and what you'll be able to do is you really will be able to now take a look at how do you really have everyone aligned to the same sheet of music, so to speak. If you were to kind of have the CFO participate in all the execs in the organization to say, this is what I need from a functionality perspective, that particular message can trickle down properly to the team level, in which they would then begin to start to prioritize and scope their work so that they can effectively deploy functionalities that are really related specifically to what the organization needs. And in that, you really would solve a lot of the issues that you have. So the outcome of this particular methodology, once it's deployed, as from what I've seen in all of the engagements I've been involved in, is that you're able to reduce the risk of your project being prolonged outside of the budget as well. So you can lower your cost and you can increase the ability to deploy innovation quickly. So some of the things that we kind of do in terms of checking to ensure that you're on task is, number one, you would ensure that the engagement of the application that you're going to be utilizing is up to par. So we do a baseline in the very beginning, and then we would check your productivity to ensure that that is on point. The quality of the software is measured, and as you mentioned earlier, one of the things that we can kind of do to make sure that we're on track is to check the time to market, both from when you check it to see where you are in terms of how long it's taking you to do things, and then you can, once you do a periodic check as you deploy, you can see how you improved in those areas. So what you're going to see in that quadrant to the right, in that green there, you'll see that those 4 areas that I just spoke about, you have the ability to improve pretty substantially, anywhere from 30 to 75%, for example, in time to market. And the others, the numbers are correlating. But what I've done is I've been able to work with several big companies and government entities to really, roll this out. So we've been able to take a look at where we have been in terms of a baseline, and we've been very, very successful in deploying this methodology to help those companies accomplish those goals. Some of those goals are, reduce your project deployment risk, as I mentioned. This is a big one, aligning the business processes with the IT operations, which is huge in the market to ensure that you're getting the functionality that you need to progress your business. And lastly, deliver quality software functionality and value more frequently as planned. So typically what you'll see in a larger ERP, for example, deployment, is that the functionality will be delivered in a big bang approach. Whereas with the Scale Agile framework and being more agile in your process, be able to deliver more frequently, hence getting productivity, the place of productivity more quickly.
Wow, Craig, I mean, that sounds exciting, and it appears that, Agile can really help, CFOs improve value and reduce risk on projects. Can you elaborate on how the process generally works and, what the timeline looks like?
Absolutely. Let me show you, if you can bring in that slide for me. I'll show for the audience how that kind of looks. So what you'll see is that this particular slide, if you want to switch to display, Dave, to the swap it, yeah, that'd be helpful. It's probably a little hard to see. Yeah, thank you. So what you'll see is that the Scale Agile framework has a set process roadmap that you follow. And as I mentioned before, there's several processes under the same framework. But what we've done is we've basically captured the approach of deploying the Scale Agile framework and coupled that with some of the lessons learned that we have experienced. And we're able to now, utilize products and simplified services to roll out these processes, and so they can be successful in the organization. So we start with deploying what we call the Xceleon Transformation Accelerator. That is a pre-configured solution that's housed on Dell's appliance that allows us to quickly deploy a solution into the environment, and that can be used to help gather information that we need to perform a systematic business case production or assessment. And it also allows us to manage the entire process from end to end. Then we take the approach, if you look at number 2 here, to start to educate all of the resources, starting with the leadership in the organization, to ensure that the message and the culture is really exposed to an agile way of thinking. So that kind of starts with the top, if you will. Then we take we continue the process by aligning and really forming what's called our value streams for all of the resources in the organization, to where the resources that are now employed by that organization are now really positioned in what's called a value stream, which is really what gets us from order to cash in any product or services that company offers. So in that particular training, we again would develop or help to kind of map out that resources in those particular roles. We then continue the process by deploying an infrastructure that can be leveraged to really house that digital transformation, and then we continue the training for operational readiness for those organizations or for those resources by training all of those folks that I've talked about in the actual value stream to ensure that they have all the necessary skills related to their role to be operate in an agile way. So again, starting with the leadership, training all of the resources. Now everyone is on the same page, and now they're able to ensure that the vision is manifested in an agile way. We continue by helping the organization by performing some coaching exercises to help them to basically gather the information in regards to what their their scope is going to be, and then we help them to leverage proven processes and proven equations, if you will, to prioritize those the scope that we've helped them to discover, and then we're able to easily put that together in what's called basically a scope of work. And then Nikhil is going to talk a little bit about the Agile Squads. We can then now seamlessly turn that over, hand that over to the Agile Squads configuration or services that Stefanini offers. And now you have a complete end-to-end solution where you now have, you can start off with an Agile approach, as I mentioned before, at the portfolio level. You continue to build out those features that are part of that big thing to do in terms of functionalities. We help to prioritize that scope of work that I mentioned, and then we help to manage from start to finish the entire implementation of the functionalities that are needed to help that business progress forward. So a pretty intense and pretty detailed process, but it is something to once you're involved and you start to kind of work with these and get educated on the different functionalities, it becomes an automatic process.
Excellent, excellent. Craig, that was fantastic. Really appreciate you going through that process. It sounds like that the safe agile process certainly provides invaluable guidance of recommended best practices to be adopted for an end-to-end digital transformation initiative. So the thing is my question. However, executing this process is really complex, and I know that a lot of the CFOs I've spoken to, they're a lot of times frustrated because of the complexity of it, right? The cross-functional and likely demand on great deal of orchestration and all the groups that need to work together. So how does Stefanini's methodology leverage these best practices to kind of mitigate the inherent execution risks, right? To increase the likelihood of a successful outcome? Because it looks like we're talking about really investing more so in outcomes rather than products or projects, right?
Yes, Dave. Yes, Dave, and thank you for asking that question. Like, as you rightly said, there is an element of uncertainty right at the outset of any Agile-led digital transformation initiative, right? An inherent risk and risk at multiple levels, especially if you're talking involved mission critical, digital transformation initiatives, right? A risk that typically makes a CFO nervous at the outset. It feels like investing in such an initiative is similar to investing in any high-risk asset class, and hence invariably, when you're assessing a digital transformation initiative, you look for a high-risk, high-return kind of an assessment paradigm, right? So let me kind of elaborate on what some of those risks that we've kind of seen in our experience. So right at the outset is the concept validation risk. I mean, the risk or the uncertainty associated with any technology solution, on how well and if it will address a specific requirement, especially when you're talking, technologies like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, blockchain. So the initial validation at the outset is critical. We've seen cases where, I mean, either the customer problem is too complex, or the digital solution that we've kind of set ourselves up for did not meet the requirements, right? So in such cases, absolutely critical that you cut your losses, fail early if necessary, and course correct right at the outset. So another risk that we've seen on quite a few things is the whole organization change engagement risk, which is engaging the stakeholders, the customers, getting the necessary validation, acceptance, and sponsorship at multiple levels. Not to mention the time to market risk, especially in today's context, where I think there is an enormous pressure and incentive to be the first as typical winners take all in today's context. And the question always at the back of your mind, right? Whether or not you'll make it on time or you miss the bus, getting your minimum viable product out to the market. There's always a skill risk that inherent risk whether your product, your solution will scale to meet the entire target addressable market space, will deliver to the customer expectations. So I can go on and on. I think the risks are innumerable, uncertainty is unavoidable, especially on agile-led digital transformation journeys. But what's important is a methodology that mitigates this risk, right? To increase the financial viability, only increase the likelihood of a successful outcome. A methodology that kind of gives the comfort and assurance to CFOs, right? As they understand the risks, and more importantly, they understand how they are mitigated. A methodology that's built on agile principles, kind of leveraging all the best practices and the what and the why of scale agile framework, like how Craig just talked us through. Built on iterations, early visibility, not just through the development phase, but I think also on the earlier stages on concept validation, and also after the product has been released, right? So let me show you how our well-crafted concept to implementation methodology that's been built on agile principles that's helped our customers succeed on their digital transformation initiatives, right? So what you see on your screen and our methodology kind of going into 3 phases: engage, accelerate, scale, each of which is very iterative in nature. And engage, it's all about concept validation, right? It's kind of to design the concept validation risks that I just talked about. It's designed to engage the right stakeholders at the outset, early feedback, design thinking, built on fail fast principles. You absolutely need a successful engage phase if you have to build the conviction, the enthusiasm, and the commitment that's necessary for an enterprise to stay focused on the rest of the agile-led digital transformation initiative, right? Next is accelerate, which is really where you shift gears. It focuses on the technology acceleration, the enablement that is necessary to accelerate your speed of delivery, right? And by enablement, I'm more referring to the architecture, the automation, the process orchestration that is really critical in accelerating your speed of delivery and meeting your time to market. Successful accelerate is when you are able to deliver a minimum viable product to the customer and hopefully meeting or exceeding the time to market requirements. Scale, last but not the least, and it's an ongoing never-ending phase. It's where you deliver your product roadmap and strive to capture the target market space. This phase is where you embed and you institutionalize the digital product solution into the business model. And I cannot stress enough on how critical it is for the solution or your digital transformation capability to make it to your business operating model, right? Again, a phase where you kind of build the necessary ammunition to perform, gather, and respond to customer feedback at scale. So just to reiterate, right, this is a scale where you are addressing your target market at scale, you're showing your product stewardship, and there's always an ongoing innovation and customer engagement.
Thanks, Nikhil. That was excellent. Very, very clear, and really appreciate you going through that process. The thing that I really look at too is this is indeed it's very interesting because it feels like Stefanini's methodology is designed for like true organizational agility, right? It's likely that this approach should mitigate an organization's change risk as well as increase certainty, right? That's what we really want. That's what the CFO wants, a successful outcome. However, a methodology is only as good as it is on paper, right? So the successful outcome demands execution and excellence at a high delivery. So how do you address the Agile capability so that critical for success, this outcome is certain?
Again, a great question. And you're so correct, right? A methodology is only as good as it is on the paper. Now, I mean, we all have the right intent, we define the right processes, design the right methodologies, incorporate all the best practices, guidance. And most of us on this call understand Agile, understand SAFe, Lean, all the important concepts that we run into, right? All the right intent, best of efforts, best of intentions, but I'm sure all of us experience different levels of successes, right? There's invariably a gap between what you set out to deliver and what you actually realize at the end of the day, a gap between, I would say, expectations and actuals. And we attribute a lot of that gap to an organization's ability to execute. It's execution excellence at the end of the day that really makes the differentiation and is the recipe to success, right? And this is where I think some of our Agile Squad methodology focused on execution excellence signed up to achieve, I would say, 100% sprint acceptance goals, help increase the probability or likelihood of success on Agile-led digital transformation initiatives. And let me show you how, right? So again, what you're seeing on your slide are some of the essential elements that our Agile Squads, as organically as part of their methodology, help organizations perfect and help organization mature so that it constantly meets every sprint acceptance goals, right? Relentless. An organization that increases the velocity and delivers a higher throughput. And as I said, right, it's our squad methodology that strives to deliver on all those aspects. Just for the benefit of our listeners, by Agile Squads, we are referring to our Agile Scrum or a feature team, which has Scrum Masters, which has UX specialists, full stack developers, automation engineers trained on all emerging methodologies, technologies. More importantly, I think they are nurtured to work with the quality orientation and the culture necessary to drive some of the execution excellence, right? Now, going back to this essential elements or building blocks, as I would call them, I think it's important for me to clarify on why these are rank ordered the way they are. This by no means implies that you do this sequentially or you do one after the other. Whereas in reality, we all know this kind of, all four elements play out simultaneously, right? You execute Agile Scrums. Test automation invariably is DevOps in today's context. Is just a part and parcel of how we deliver. But by rank ordering this way, we are only expressing our viewpoint on the order in which this need to be attacked and perfected, right? If you eventually aspire to drive high levels of execution excellence. It is the order in which our methodology focuses to get perfection and the depth on maturity of each of these areas. It's something that we've learned over the years. So let me bust some myths and challenge some conventional wisdom out there, right? I'm sure a lot of us on the call today equate a DevOps implementation to Agile transformation or enterprise agility, right? But I bet the truth is far from that, right? Undoubtedly, DevOps today is the easiest thing to do, right? It's at the click of a button. But I'm just questioning everyone, like, what good does it do if you haven't sequenced your pipeline right? Like, what good does it do if you got your dependency wrong, right? What good does it do if you still haven't gotten your first time right and right first time metrics sorted out? So hence, we kind of have ordered this different elements the way we have. We believe perfecting the 2-week sprint cadence, for example, is absolutely foundational and is the first step to building a great agile organization, right? And by the 2-week sprint cadence, you perfected the art of prioritizing, you've perfected the art of planning, delivering in small chunks. Hopefully you built a collaborative best DevOps culture where your business, your operations, your development work and prioritize of a simple backlog. You made that transition from a project to a product-based mode of working. So again, so hence this are kind of ordered the way they are. And just to reiterate, right, this capabilities have to evolve organically. You have to go through a cultural transformation. It's important to understand the sequence and what's more integral and fundamental to delivering that execution excellence, if that's what you strive to. And there are no shortcuts, right? But leveraging on someone's experience, making sure that you don't reinvent the wheel, you can certainly accelerate the pace of transformation.
Excellent, Nikhil. That was fantastic. Really appreciate you going through that. Now, the thing of it is that there's indeed a very intriguing, counterintuitive way in which you lay out the DevOps further down on the journey, right? Especially when automating some of the delivery pipeline at the click of a button. But does it make sense that speed without quality or only delivers a suboptimal output? Also, it's very interesting on how you laid out the building blocks, right? So building a quality culture is so important to increase the certainty and chances of a successful initiative. So it just feels like you guys have discovered the secret sauce here of helping organizations build their agile capability. So this is great. I mean, the methodology is intriguing. I love it. The need for high agile capability for execution excellence and successfully implementing the methodology is well acknowledged, and I know CFOs appreciate that. But as Stefanini, and a partner, how do you truly show your commitment, right? In a very tangible terms. How do you reduce or share execution risks, right? That's the key with your customers.
Yep, and you're so right, and I'm not surprised, Dave, that you asked me that question. I can sense a level of anguish, if you may, as you ask me that question. I do, and I'm sure a lot of us on this call feel a sense of disillusionment with Agile, especially when it comes to engaging partners like us, right, and striking a collaboration model. I'm sure quite a few on this call still have to experience a true Agile contract with their partners. I won't be surprised if some of us on this call believe that it's not possible to engage a partner on a true Agile contract and strive for collaboration, strive for innovation, and still be objective on how you measure your partner, right, at the end of the day. I know a lot of us think about trading one at the expense of another. So maybe, a fixed price project, but executed in an Agile model. Is that collaboration? Is that co-creation? I'm not sure. Similarly, some of us, kind of look at, take it to the other extreme, flexibility at the expense of innovation, and have an open-ended time and material contracts in an Agile model. So in more than one ways, right, I think the way you set yourself up to execute Agile, engaging your partners is an art. That has to be probably learned through. You can leverage of someone's experience who have done this and made multiple things count. And I'm glad to share here on this forum that we've kind of, I wouldn't say perfected this art, but we're further along. And through some of how we've set our customers up on Agile and, executed Agile contracts, we kind of help them realize and experience what true Agile is in a partnership-led model. And let me show you how here. right? So as I mentioned, like the contracts and how you set yourself up are an absolute important lever at the end of the day to execute, to reduce your execution risks, improve certainty, and share execution risks, right? And again, as I said, drafting contracts is a fine balancing act, as I would show you through the course of this slide as well. So if you go on to the next, Dave. So I think the most important and something that should never be yielded to is collaboration and co-creation. That's a mantra that we live and breathe on digital transformation, which are agile led. Again, this isn't a fixed price project, especially when you're talking digital solutions, where you're engaging customers, where you're revamping customer journeys. You're talking artificial intelligence, you're talking machine learning. This isn't something that you can put in a box, ship it over, and hope someone delivers. And if you try doing it, then for sure that's not truly agile. So I think collaboration, co-creation is something that has to absolutely make it when how you set up your partners on kind of trying to execute something like this. If you go on to the next one, Dave. So the next is flexibility, right? And that always has been, continues to be, and will always be the mantra when it comes to agile, right? I mean, we've all practiced, preached, like change is the only constant in agile. So flexibility, absolutely, right? I mean, flexibility on how you need resources, how that composition changes from one scrum to another. So that flexibility and seamless flexibility, right? I mean, that's more important. I think ensuring that responsiveness to flexibility on how you set up is absolutely critical, because if you do not, if you have flexibility but not the speed to respond, then it disrupts, right? It kind of throws spanners. You feel like you put brakes on in your flow, right? You kind of go scramping for resources when you are in middle of execution. So I think flexibility and seamless flexibility is again very critical on how you set your partners up. Can you go on to the next one, please, Steve? Innovation. I mean, I cannot stress enough on innovation. Agile development methods and processes is one area that we've all seen the disruption to be non-stopping, right? What is probably the best method to execute today might well be redundant to tomorrow, right? So the constant focus on agile processes, methods, innovation, focus on first time right first time, has to be built into how you execute and set expectations with your partner. On the next, please, Dave. And again, last but not the least, guys, collaboration is great, co-creation is great, flexibility is great, but you want your partner to have a skin in the game. You want to feel like your partner is sharing your execution risks at the end of the day, right? Your partner is willing to commit to certain outcomes that you really strive for. I cannot stress enough on how this is so very critical, especially if you are a CFO and you're doing your financial budget planning and you're looking for your execution risks and variance. I mean, putting a lot of it on your partner is an assured way to reduce your exposures, right, to financial risks or any variance that you might run when it comes to actual versus planned. So again, to me, these are like those important ingredients, Dave, to what you mentioned, to answer your question on how do we make sure that we make it happen, right? How do we make sure that we show we have a skin in the game? So that's really what I had at this time. And over to you, Dave, if you have any questions at this time.
Nikhil, that was fantastic. Both of you, I really appreciate both you and Craig. This really was very exhaustive in terms of giving CFOs an insight into how to accelerate their digital transformations. And at this time, I want to ask Amy if there are any questions for us.
Yes, thank you, all three of you. So you talked about at the end of the Agile methodology, how do you address the skill set and competency requirements on your end-to-end methodology through going through the engage, accelerate, and scale phases?
Again, great question, Amy. Thank you for asking it. Yes, I think like the way I explained, which the journey or the methodology going through phases is quite encompassing. It demands a lot of skills, competencies. So for example, engage is all about concept validation, user journeys. So we kind of recognize the different skill sets that you would need through each of those different phases. I talked about our Agile Squads when I talked about execution methodology. So we kind of organize, we execute that end-to-end approach, as I called it, through different formation of skill sets and competencies into what we call it as squads. So for example, if I'm talking engage, we would have a design or a concept squad, which has roles like a design thinker, a transformation consultant, an architect, which can do engage effectively to do the necessary validation and structure the journey at the outset, for the customers, right? If you're talking about accelerate phases where you have a lot of product development and iterative product development, which we try and address through a product development or a feature team squad, almost kind of a DevOps team, if you may, having feature developers, full stack developers, automation engineers, operation support analysts, QAs, and so on. So it's through a squad-based methodology. Squads defined with the right roles, the right competencies, that we address the end-to-end cycle that I just talked about. And again, the key thing is Agile Squads, and they kind of live and breathe the execution excellence and striving to deliver to the sprint deliverables, acceptance criteria in that iterative methodology. Hope that answers your question, Amy.
And if I may, I'd like to add to that if I can. So to kind of circle back and kind of to talk about what I was speaking about earlier, which educating the customer. So as a partner with Xceleon and Stefanini and the customer, we're all going to be on the same page. And how that happens, we start the conversation and we start the engagement by educating the customer on those agile principles. So to kind of develop what the scope is going to look like, to prioritize that scope, and then hand it over to the Stefanini Agile Squad teams, that is going to be an iterative process that we will constantly be engaged in, so that everyone will be on the same page. And that's extremely important because it kind of takes down the culture barriers that are normally in projects. It ensures that you are really focused on exactly what needs to be deployed to keep up with the speed of the business, and so on and so forth. So that should be said as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Craig. Yep, absolutely.
Any other questions, Amy?
Yes, we actually have one from the audience. So Marina, I'm going to read your question, so hopefully I get it all right. So this audience member says, a lot of the times project managers face change requests during the project. Sometimes these change requests are indeed a change of scope. How do you interact with the customer during the process and have them understand that you are not opening for changes in scope? Thanks for the presentation.
Yeah. You want to take this? Or I can.
Let's go ahead.
I'll take it. So
okay, Craig, you go, then I'll chime on. So
okay, good. So in terms of that change and ensuring that you are aligned with what the business needs, the way that you can do that in the Scale Agile framework is that you always keep in mind that the minimum viable product, the MVP, is what you're really going to always be focused on. So if that changes throughout the process, that's okay, because what you're looking at is really progressing the business forward and not really be holding on exactly what the design was in the very beginning of the project. Because we all know the speed of business today and how we need to really be agile in that process, we need to keep up, right, in order for our business to be successful. So if that MVP changes, we change that. We go through the iterative process I mentioned earlier to prioritize those particular MVPs or those requirements, and then we hand that over to the Agile team. So that constant change is absolutely necessary and absolutely available for the flexibility that Nikhil talked about a little earlier.
yep. And if I may add on, absolutely, Craig. So as we said, right, I think the only constant in Agile is change. It's just a rule of the game, right? We are not changing the rule of the game in here. But if I may add on, I did talk about an initial concept validation phase. I think that in some ways is an attempt to preempt and reduce the probability or likelihood of things changing. Again, I'm using the word reduce, I'm not saying eliminate. And through that phase, if you can think through your customer journey at the outset, if you can engage your customers at the outset when you're structuring your initiative, if you give them a chance to participate, you're only reducing the likelihood of things changing, and at least not disruptive changes that derails your entire effort or gets you to rework a lot of what you would have done at a given stage in your project when the change does come up, right? So the whole focus on that concept validation upfront, the front loading upfront is precisely to do things right, first time, to get it right first time, to get the buy-in first time, and hopefully you are minimizing, if not eliminating, any surprises through the course of the execution. Does that hopefully that answers your question?
Great, and I think we have time for one last one. Based on everyone's experience, what is the best approach to deploy and adopt SAFe in an organization?
Yeah, I'll start with that one too, Nikhil. So the experiences that I was able to encounter, it's really the adopt approach. And that adopt approach is really done, say, a value stream or department at a time. And here's why that's important. Because you're changing perhaps the entire culture of how your organization runs and relates to how business relates to IT and the like. So if you're thinking that you're going to change the entire organization in one full sweep, you're fooling yourself, right? So the approach to take is to take one department that perhaps have a burning desire to make that change because perhaps they're not making their projects on time. They are always over budget with what they're trying to deploy in terms of functionality, so on and so forth. You take that organization, you apply the SAFe methodology and the processes, and then once you do that and you are successful with that particular solution, then what's going to happen is you publish out that success. And other departments will then begin to say, okay, I want to be involved as well. So if you're going to think of that from this perspective, from a SAFe perspective, you're going to be able to get more people engaged because they want to be involved and not that they're being forced to. And then also with the Agile Squad component that's involved in this as well, that means more business can be driven to that great service that Stefanini has to ensure that you're getting the proper turnaround time and the proper success with all of the scope that you're going to be able to hand over to them. So that just means more and more success all the way around.
Nikhil,
Okay.
did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think, Craig, you summarized it pretty well, Craig.
Thank you.
Great. Greg, Nikhil, Dave, would you like to add anything else before we close it out?
No, I just want to thank everyone for joining, and this has been a great webinar, and I'm just looking forward to the next one. So thank you, Amy. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Nikhil. It's just been fantastic. Really appreciate it.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having us, Steve. Thank you so much.
The only thing I would add is that again, I'm super excited and enthusiastic about this topic. And if there's any questions or I didn't make myself clear or anything that you want to kind of revisit in this particular webinar, please feel free to reach out. And I'm sure Dave would probably have some type of display where our contact is there. But certainly reach out. I'm always open to having a discussion because I'm so passionate about it. And I look forward to hearing from any of you guys if you have any questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you. So like I mentioned earlier, we are sending out some takeaways in the recording. And in that email, we can also add Craig or Nikhil or Dave's contact information if you want to get in touch with them to discuss further. That's all we have for today. Thank you again for joining, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.